classrooms buzzing like summer fun. AI rules when the day is done. Check your facts, don't you be shy. Cite them well as the sun hits high. Break it down, trace every source. Responsibility on this course. Learning grows under the sky. AI norms as we imply. In summer heat we create AI rules that innovate. Cite and write, reflect and share. Learning's better everywhere.
Welcome, everybody, to another fantastic episode of A Summer with AI. And I know some of you are starting your summer break this week, maybe starting next week, or maybe you have a couple weeks left, but it is summer for us. We've spent 4 amazing weeks together learning about what AI is, how to use it in the classroom. We've talked about AI literacy. We've talked about AI in the classroom. We've talked about prompt engineering. But now we are getting to the nitty and the gritty, right? We're getting into getting excited about AI norms. What are the proper ways to use in the classroom, and what are abuses in the classroom? And how do you cite these tools when utilizing them? So that is going to be our focus today, is how do we do that? But first, who am I? My name is Joe Marquez. I am AKA the EdTech MacGyver. I have my shirt on right here. And I just love to be able to be a part of your growth during this summer season. And last week, we talked a lot about prompt engineering. That was a big topic. So we had week 3 was get into gear for prompt engineering, and then get into gear 2 because there is so much more to do. And we asked you to share out your prompts. So we appreciate each and every one of you who was able to participate in that and share out some amazing prompts that you're using for your own professional growth, but also for how your students are utilizing these in the classroom. The best way to gain knowledge on how to use these tools is by doing it together, by sharing out. So I do appreciate each and every one of you for sharing those out. So we talked about prompt engineering. That is an absolute key in learning how to use these tools, because we need to know how to ask these tools in what we want them to do. You remember our AI cubed, right? The artificial intelligence intentional inclusion. We have to be intentional about including these tools in our repertoire. And we have to have an idea of how we're asking them to do something for us or with us, and not just go in, with no idea what you want to do. You have to have a plan to build. You have to have an engineer plan on how you want to go forth. And the great thing about prompt engineering and the great thing about AI is that you get to decide how much or how little of it you are going to utilize in the classroom. Now, I want you to understand AI is going to be in the classroom, just like the internet is in your classroom, just like digital devices are being used by students in your classroom. AI, whether we like it or not, is going to be utilized in the professional growth of educators and in the educational growth of our students. So we have to know what it is, the power of it, so we can decide how much or how little to utilize it in our classroom. And there's going to be different situations when we're going to ask our students to go ahead and use it, and when we're going to ask them to not rely on it or not use it at all for that particular lesson. It's not an all or nothing thing, and we'll talk a little bit about that when we get to that point. And we also have to know that we've been talking a lot about prompting as in text prompting, but no, a lot of these tools are utilizing multimodal prompting. That is voice prompting, visual prompting. I wouldn't put it past the industry to start incorporating some emotional AI strategies in the devices themselves. And I keep saying, listen closely to what Apple is going to announce. If they partner with OpenAI and they start including the GPT-4o infrastructure into the entire Apple infrastructure to re-engineer what Siri can do, maybe they rename it completely, that's going to be something. because they have the Apple Watch, they have the iPad, they have the iPhone, they have the Mac laptops, they even have the earbuds in your ear. Could you imagine a constant contact to an AI tutor or an AI assistant in your ear on your phone, knowing everything about you? That gets a little bit scary to some people, like, oh no, we're being tracked. Well, that's how GPS, the maps work on our phones. We are being tracked, and together we help everybody. But it's going to be up to us to decide how much or how little we're going to accept that. And then we have to know that when we are talking to these machines, whether it's vocally, whether it's through text, we have to know that we have to have a plan of action. What do we want these tools to do? That's the task. What is the context I need to give it in order to ask that? And that could be a part of your prompt, right? At the end, say, if you need more context to produce a better output, please ask that before producing an output, right? Utilizing these text or these tools to prompt us to give more information, right? It's a prompting back and forth. That's pretty amazing. An example, do you want to give some examples to the device or to the tool of how you want something to look, or maybe follow a going to be pretty interesting in how we go about this. So, this isn't a framework. This isn't something you have to follow. It's something just to think about when building your prompt. Okay, stuff to think about. And then we also want to make sure that we and our students, before utilizing these tools, remember AI goals. We want to make sure that we demystify the AI so that the students and yourselves and your fellow staff members don't think any of this is magic, or that the AI is sentient in any way. We want to make sure they understand the fundamentals of AI use, terminologies. What does a prompt mean? What does multimodal prompting mean? What does bias mean? Like, make sure we understand all these terminologies, understand the capabilities, but also its limitations, the AI bias that can be produced in the output, to be cautious of that, understanding prompt engineering, and then all the AI tools that are out there and that are going to be utilized. We need to make sure that our students have a good grasp of what these tools are, what they aren't, how to use them properly before we let them start using them. Right? We need to train them first before we take off their training wheels. And maybe we don't take off training wheels. And then I do want us as educators to understand that the power in this technology is really going to transform teaching and learning. It's going to transform how students learn. And we already have a digital divide in this country, in also in the state of California, where some students have access to technology at home and some do not. Right? We already have that digital divide. We don't want to increase that digital divide by putting a lot of these features behind paywalls. We don't want it to be where the most well-funded schools get access to the latest and greatest AI technologies, and schools that aren't so well funded or you are using their funds for other means don't have access to these tools. We have to pay close attention to all of these companies that are coming out and saying we have AI features. We need to pay close attention to what features are limited, what features are within your subscription, and then what features are premium. We need to pay close attention to that. I personally don't mind maybe some of the teacher features of AI being put behind a paywall, but for the students, we should not limit student access to these tools. So we really need to start, beating that drum. We really need to start being loud about, not creating more inequities by putting a lot of these capabilities behind a paywall for our students. So we need to be very, very cautious of that, especially after we also want to be able to frankly talk about plagiarism. Well, number one, there's a lot of different people out there who use this word plagiarism when talking about AI. I personally only put plagiarism between humans. When one human is utilizing another human's work and passing it off as their own. That's what I consider plagiarism. I consider plagiarism when somebody can point, that was written somewhere else, you lifted it completely and put it in yours and didn't give them credit. We didn't cite them. To me, that is plagiarism. Utilizing AI within your own writing, I don't think that's plagiarism. But if you're not citing it, if you're not citing that you used AI in some way, shape, or form, I think that is an AI abuse, right? So I'm going to use the term AI abuse. I am not going to use the term plagiarism. Okay. If you call it AI plagiarism, that's fine. But I am going to call it AI abuse. An abuse of AI. And we also have to think about, why would we allow our students to use AI in this particular lesson? And how would we allow them to use it in this particular lesson? Again, it's not an all or nothing thing. And think about it. If an AI can write a 5-paragraph essay at a B or an A- standard, maybe we need to go a little bit deeper than asking them just to write these essays. Maybe we need to ask them, why are they writing the essay? Are they writing an essay to learn how to craft a paragraph? If that's the case, the AI should not be writing that paragraph for them, right? Or are they using the AI to help learn about a topic? Because in the end, isn't it about, did they learn the information? So we need to ask ourselves, what is the intent of the project? What is the intent of the lesson? And then we can go from there, right? But what we can't have is what Alice Daly says here. Alice Daly is the chair of the Academic Integrity Program at Villanova University. And they asked her, this was last summer, what do you think that the colleges are going to say about using these tools? And she said that her guess was there's going to be a blanket policy that says you cannot use these tools unless you're given permission by a professor to use these tools. Otherwise, it's considered a violation of the Academic Integrity Code. I can see where they are coming from, but I need you to understand, why should we limit the use of a tool that is going to be utilized in a vast arrays in the business sector, in the job sector? Why should we limit students' ability to access those and utilize those to produce works? Because a professor is nervous about its use or doesn't like its use. And let me give you an example. When I was a freshman in college, my freshman biology class, we had to write a paper, of course, and I was told, you will not use the internet in any way, shape, or form. You will go to the library and you'll find a book and you'll write down where you found the book and you're going to use the books. And I'm thinking to myself, but I've been using the internet since 1994, right? It had been 5 years. I started college in 1999. Oh my goodness, that makes me feel old. But because the professor was didn't trust the internet, he made us all go to the library, which is fine. But couldn't we have done, the work faster? Couldn't we have found maybe a larger the repository of information to choose from? Because that professor was scared of the internet, he denied us access to it. And that would, if every professor did that, that would be detrimental to my growth as not only a student, but as a human being. So should we rely on people who are scared of AI to say, you're not using AI? We need to have knowledge about these things. We need to make sure that everybody in the profession of education understands what these tools are and what they aren't, so that they can make an educated decision, not a knee-jerk decision. Hey, if you have anybody who wants to know more about AI, I know 4 and now 5 episodes of a show they can go back and watch to hopefully get a little bit more information on these tools. And please, and we'll talk about this a little bit more, but please do not rely on these AI plagiarism detectors. Please do not rely on these perplexity detectors. They are not really reliable, and there is lots of room for error. The developers of these programs are giving a much lower confidence percentage than the companies trying to sell them to schools. I just don't want to see a teacher get into a situation where they say, well, this detector says you most likely had AI write this for you, and they had no AI write it for them. I don't want a teacher to be put in a situation where they are claiming a student didn't write it when they actually did. And another question would be, beyond your detector, prove it, right? Beyond your detector, prove they had AI use this, right? Some teachers will say, well, I know what AI sounds like. That's not proof. That's you saying that you think you know, right? So just be careful. Be very careful. A regular plagiarism detector that is actually finding off of the internet that was written by somebody else, and it can point you to that exact page on the internet or location where it found that somebody else wrote that exact sentence or paragraph, right? There is actual concrete evidence plagiarism occurred. With these perplexity detectors, there's none. It's just a probability. And we need to make sure that we are not relying on probability to talk to students about utilizing AI. And also, if you haven't talked to students about AI and they use it, is that against the rules when you never said anything about it, right? That's why we need to bring AI out of the dark and into the light, right? We need to stop having the students hide that they're using the AI, bring it out into the open, and start letting them tell us how they're using the AI to help them with their work, right? And we will find times that students will explain how they use it, and we're like, oh, we can't do it. We can't. Take a look. So let's go ahead and take a look at some strategies to craft norms for our students to make sure that they're using these correctly. Now, the title of this slide is "What is a Chat GP cheat?" Right? Because some people think utilizing AI is a cheating thing, but that's I wouldn't say that. It all depends on how you use it and what the ultimate goal of your lesson is, right? And so you need to start crafting a definition for use of AI. And this is what I have done. Do not think you have to follow this. But I call it, these are my norms that I would talk to students about, and a column of AI abuse, and then a column of proper use. There's an AI abuse and there's a proper use of using these AIs. And this isn't, something that is set in stone. This is definitely something that should be malleable. This is definitely something that should take time, and it should change over the years as we go through this. Now, I'm going to show you this as classroom norms, but your school community, whether it's at the district level or the site school level, or again, your classroom level, these need to be talked about out in the open. You need to have staff members involved. You need to have community members involved. You need to have parents involved. You need to have students involved. You need to have administrators involved. There needs to be an AI task force to have an open and honest conversation about the use of these tools. We can't just say, you're not using them, right? Because the students will use them at home. They will. They are, right? Last year, there was a statistic that came out that said ChatGPT had a drop of about 15% in usage between June, July, and August. And why? Well, summer hit. So we know students are utilizing these tools, but are they utilizing them correctly? Well, if we haven't trained them, they most likely are not utilizing these tools correctly. So you need to talk with your kids. What do you think an AI abuse would be? Let's talk and write this out together. What do you think a proper use would be? right? And so talk about these with your students. So this is just the tip of the iceberg, but it's a start. So like for me, an AI abuse would be students utilizing prompts to create a completed piece of work that is going to be turned in and passed off as the student's own. That's an AI abuse, right? You may call it plagiarism. I call it AI abuse. It's not going to fly, right? Like you would probably see in the academic integrity code of your school something very similar about plagiarism, right? And it would just be a that instead of saying plagiarism is when you're taking the words of somebody else and passing them off as your own, you can easily just change that to in our academic integrity policy, utilizing a tool or person to do your work for you and passing it off on your own is against our academic integrity code, right? So there you go. Okay. And then you can even throw in there like using AI without citing its use is a call for a discussion. But that could be getting too far into the nitty gritty at the district level. That is why an academic AI task force needs to be put into place at your school district, so lots of voices and scenarios can be played out as you are adding and adjusting to your school site and academic integrity policy. Right. So yeah, using prompts to create work to complete treated work, that would be an abuse of AI. Using pieces of AI that you're not citing, to me, that would be against. I want students to tell me how they're using the AI. Cite it. Let me know. And there's going to be lots of abuses, right? But the way we talk to students about this is not by getting them into trouble. It's about having a conversation with them. Right? So if somebody's using AI in a way that you think is an abuse, have that conversation as a whole class. Class, let's talk about this scenario. Do you think this is a proper use or do you think this is an AI abuse? Right? And then you'd put that there under the AI abuse and say, okay, this is now an abuse. Okay, you're not in trouble. We didn't have it cited as an abuse, but we can't be doing that anymore. And then you can make the decision of, I want you to go back and redo your assignment, but not using the abuse. Okay? But they're not in trouble. Okay, so we have to be very vocal about this. Proper uses of AI, right? Something simple like using prompts to help in the help in the creation. That's why a citation at this point would be very important. How did it help? Did you help it rework a sentence, rework a paragraph, rework your whole paper? What did you give it that was your own? Like, we want to know more information about how it was used. Using AI to kickstart the writing process. One of the hardest things a student has to do is start writing. How many times have we asked the students to start writing, start brainstorming, and you go by and nothing is written, nothing is done? They have that writer's block. They have that block, right? And there is a camp of teachers that would say, well, that struggle is how they learn. I understand that. I'm not saying take away the struggle. What I am saying, though, is there's also a point where the struggle becomes overwhelming and the students give up before they've even started. Okay? So I understand when teachers say the struggle is what helps. I understand that, right? But there is also a point in the struggle that it's detrimental. And so we need our students to start identifying when I have a great story of when I visited my father-in-law in Michigan last July, and he lives in Michigan and Charlevoix. Shout out to Charlevoix, Michigan. And he now there's lots of rolling hills where he lives, and so he bought an e-bike, and people made fun of him, and they're like, "Oh, if you buy a bike, you should be able to pedal it." And he's like, "Look, I pedal this bike as much as I can. But these hills are too much for my knees and too much for my hips." They've both been replaced, by the way. And so what he does is, to get over the hill, to get over that hump, he pedals as much as he can, but then he revs the E portion of the bike enough to get over the hump. And once he's over, he starts to get over the hump. They should be utilized to get over that hump, to get them to progress past that. Okay. But again, that's a discussion with the students, and that's training, and that's learning on when is too much struggle and when can AI step in to help them get over that struggle. Okay. What about using AI to review your first draft? Right. Hey, I am going to be after this post, I'm going to be providing you with an essay that I wrote. I would love for you to go over the essay and provide me with any recommendations that could help make the essay sound even more more unique, or sound even more clear. Right. You can even provide the writing prompt and say, did I hit all the points in this writing prompt? And if not, what would I need to include in order to hit all those points? Right. Using it as a tutor, first draft, converse about possible problems. Right. All of these things. And then finally, acknowledging the breadth and depth of AI usage in your project, in your essay. We call that the citation page, CIT, capital AI, TION. Okay. And this is what I have for a citation page. And listen, I know APA has come out with a citation index for using AI. I understand that. I know MLA has. I don't know if Chicago has. I'm not a Chicago person. I just find them wholeheartedly underwhelming for me as an educator in trying to understand the how and the why a student decided to use AI, right? The how and the why a student decided to use AI. Those citations that MLA and APA they have, they don't do that for me. They may not do it for you. So go back to what a citation is meant to do. What is a citation meant to do? It's meant to tell you that this bit of information was found in this location. Okay. That's what a citation is meant for. That's great for a book. That's great for a website. That's great for a meeting with somebody you've chatted with. But with AI, it does so much. We need to know a little bit more. And also kind of have a student reflect every time they've used it, so that they start asking this, did I need to use the AI? Do I need to use it anymore now that I understand this? Right? Maybe they should let off on that e-bike throttle a little bit after reflecting on this. So that's what I'm talking about. Okay. And I'm also talking about, there is an amazing so Katie, whenever there's a fact in there, she likes to use kind of a reverse engineering of the AI to kind of find out where on the internet that fact is from. And that's great. But what if we're not talking about where they found a fact? Okay. What if we're talking about how they used it to help rewrite a paragraph, or how they were able to use it to help as a tutor? I want to know that as well, not just where that information is located on the internet. And also, I want to point out that the way that the AI works, it's not finding it on that website and then bringing it to you. So it's almost like reverse citing, like trying to prove your point by finding it off on the internet, right? I mean, Katie's an amazing educator, and I love her strategy. I just think there needs to be a little bit more on the student end to tell me, why did they use it? That's my citation. And people like, well, I don't like to call it a citation, and I like to call it an AI reflection. Perfect. You call it whatever you want, but let me show you what my thought process is on this, right? And so I believe that when AI is used in the writing process or the research process, it needs to be up in the byline, so that you're not reading it as the teacher trying to figure out, did they use AI in this? You need to see it in the byline. And how was it used? Edited by a thought partner with AI. I need to know that. And then there's the citation page, right? And so I have 5 things that I would like to see as an educator. Again, this is not set in stone. The great thing about this is we're making it. You decide what you would like to add or remove. You make that decision. But for me, I want to know what tool they used. Did you use ChatGPT 4.0? Did you use ChatGPT 4.0? Did you use Perplexity? Did you use Claude? I want to know the tool that you used. What was your exact prompt? I want to know what you asked, not only the prompt, but also any follow-up prompts that you've had, right? That helps the students refine and reflect on their prompting, but also maybe they'll give you a quick tip or two on how to use these tools by coming up with some pretty ingenious promptings that they have. What was the purpose? Why did you approach the tool, right? The AI cubed, artificial intelligence, intentional inclusion. Why did you intentionally include AI in your creation process? What was that purpose? A statement of original work. Did you provide the AI any original work? Did you provide your entire paper and then ask it to give you recommendations? Did you provide a paragraph and ask you to help rewrite it? What was your inclusion? Did you add anything to this tool? And then finally, a conclusion. This is like their reflection. Was it worth it? When students are utilizing these tools, they need to let us know. And we need for them to know that it's okay because we have our norms. Okay. We have this. I want to know how you're using this so we can help guide them to use them better or more effectively or more intentionally. Okay. It's going to take time. And the more we push this away, the more we push this off, the longer it's going to take. And the more powerful these tools are going to become. Let's grow along with these tools so that we can be prepared, right? So what can we do as educators, right? Let's say you have a student, you've talked about norms, you've talked about citations, you've talked about all of these things, and a student turns in work, and you're like, ah, man, I really think this tool was utilizing AI. Well, you can run it through a perplexity detector, but that should be only one point of the puzzle, one piece of the puzzle, right? We need to go deeper than that. How do we go deeper? Well, one, I hear teachers say, well, you know what? We're going to go back to paper and pencil with all this AI. You don't think kids will have the AI write it for them and then they'll just copy it? It's even harder to identify AI use when they've handwritten it. Let's stay in the digital realm because there's some ways. So number one, have students provide their brainstorming documents before they've written some handwritten documents, some brainstorming documents. Let's have them do that first. Have them turn those in along with their final paper so that we can kind of see that they were actually doing some work along the way, right? It can even be notes about how they were using the AI along the way, right? A little kind of a story about that. But also, I love revision history. And there's a couple different ways you can do this. One, up in the very upper corner, right, you can see that there's this little history doc. I can click on that and I can come through here and I can see every single change a student has made and what they added at that exact moment, right? I can see all of that. Revision history is amazing. This is something that we need to use more of, not less of, right? So there's that one thing right there. Another one is draft back. Draft back is a great extension that creates a replay of their typing. So let me show you. I can hit play and I can see the exact writing process. All right, so So draft back is fantastic because you can come back through here and see the entire writing process and see if they have any giant copies and pastes. But another thing that right here, this originality.ai allows you to see what is called an originality report. And when I click on it, it gives me a graph of typing over time. It tells me who contributed to this document, and it tells me all the different times that they used. So you can see that I wrote this paper, this blog post on January 23rd, 2020 at 12:34, and I ended it at 1:26. So it took me nearly an hour to write this. It was 51 minutes and 58 seconds. I wrote this because you can see this nice, easy slope. When you see this line, you know that typing happened over time. Okay, let me show you one that I know is AI generated because it's promotions for this show. I have AI help me with that. And so if I go to the originality report right here, I can see that there's only 5 minutes, 1 minute, 25 seconds working on this document and 3,200 characters and a giant step graph. I know that copy and pasting plus the time it took to write, that is not a paper that a student worked on by themselves. They are using AI and a lot of AI. A flat line means they're not doing any work, right? So, they did something, nothing, 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 something, nothing. So there's not a nice, easy slope that we saw on this line for confidence. Okay. Draft originality.ai is an extension in the Chrome Web Store. It's great and it's free. So again, these are to grab data points. All right. So that your perplexity detector or your spidey senses were tingling that it was possibly AI. That's one spidey point. Next, they didn't turn in any supporting documents. That's another spidey point. Next, you go to revision history and you see something like this. Now you have 3 data points to call them up and say, hey, I have a couple questions to ask you. Right? You didn't cite AI, but these things are pointing me to you probably used AI. Can we have a conversation? Right? A conversation is key when we're having our students learn how to utilize these. And then lastly, a personalized, this is something a teacher came up with when I was doing some PD last summer. And a teacher goes, well, if they wrote it, they should know it, right? I'm like, supposedly. And they go, and AI can create a quiz off of anything, right? I go, yes. Well, can't we take the student's quiz? So I can come in here to my chat GPT and I already have a pre-written prompt from, again, another tool that I showed you last time, which is called Prompt Genius. I'm going to click on this. Prompt is now copied to my clipboard. I'm going to paste it in. Hit enter. And it says, after this post, I will be providing you with an essay that a student has written. I would like you to identify the key points of the essay, create a summary, and then create a 10-question multiple choice quiz based on the essay. Once you've created the quiz, please provide me with an answer key. Do you understand? And so I can come in here. All you have to do is hit Control A, Control C. So you've copied it. Now I'm going to paste this right into the document and hit submit. So now I have the essay in here. Here's the key points of the essays, the introduction, these kinds of things. This is great. Here's my summary. And here's that multiple choice quiz. I asked for 10 questions and it's making that for me. There it is. And then there is my answer key. So what would you do at this point? Well, you can come in here and grab this quiz, copy and paste it, give it to the student, have them circle, right? Give them this as a paper copy, and they have to circle the answers and hand it back to you. And you would say, well, if you wrote it, you should be able to answer these. And then I had another teacher say, well, even if they wrote it, they may not be able to answer the question. And then I go, well, then what's the purpose of the essay? Is the purpose of the essay the writing structure, or is the purpose of the essay for them to learn something? Because if they did write it and they still can't answer this question based on what they wrote, they didn't learn what we wanted them to learn. At least we get knowledge of that too. So we have to ask ourselves, what are we trying to do with this assignment, right? And then we can guide them on how to use AI accordingly. Or there's maybe certain parts on assignment that you'll say, please do not do AI on steps 1 and 2. Only use it for the revision process on steps 3 and 4. Identifying where in the lesson students can use AI and when they're not. That is so that the hard skills you're trying to teach in the lesson is not being overrun by the AI skills that they are utilizing. So this is going to take time. Re-engineering our mind, as please keep this in mind as we are going through the growing pains of an educational system when AI is now available. But what we cannot do is deny access to these tools, age appropriate, make sure we understand that, deny access to these tools when they become available for student use. We need to teach them how to use them properly, effectively, efficiently, but still they are in charge of their own learning. And these tools need to be used as a helper, as a tutor, not as something that's going to do all the work for them. And that's only going to happen if we train them properly on how to do that. Okay. So that was a lot of information there, but hey, we are actually shorter than what we have been in the past. So just remember those 3 easy steps. Make sure students are turning in their work, their revision documents, and make sure that we're. And one last thing, I want you to know, none of these steps that we just talked about, none of these steps should be used as a gotcha, right? These should all be told to the students ahead of time. Listen, there will be times that will allow you to use AI. You need to cite it. You need to tell me. You need to be aware. You need to do all these things. You need to provide supporting documents so I know that you're doing your work. I can see your revision history. So if you're copying and pasting, I can see that. And then if I think you used AI for the majority of your paper, I will be asking you to complete a personalized quiz on this document. This is out in the open. That should not be something you are talking to your kids about after the fact as okay, I think all of you wrote these with AI. We're now going to have a pop quiz. That is not the way that I'm showing this. It should be something that you've already talked about. It's part of your norms. It's part of your classroom procedure. It's part of the expectations of the classroom. That these are the steps that are going to be taken when an AI use without being cited is thought. Okay. So that is the end of week 5. And here's your challenge. What do you think classroom norms should be? What are some of your AI abuses and what are your proper uses? I would love to hear from you. So please, on the social of your choice, whether it's LinkedIn, whether it's Twitter X, whether it is Instagram or Facebook, please share out with us and let us know how these are being used, your classroom norms. What are your absolute abuses? What are your nope, they can't use it that way, that is an abuse? What is your proper uses? I would love to hear. There are no wrong answers. This is how we become a greater community together. Again, share out your classroom norms right off on the Twitter, on the socials using the hashtag Summer with AI. And please tag me at Joe Marquez 70. All right. Future episodes, we're going to be talking about generative AI for images. And what does that mean? We're going to be talking about generative AI for audio and for video and for all these things. We are now into the tools of the summer. And so right off the bat, we're going to be going off on some cool tools that you can use for your school year coming here in the 24-25 school year. If you are watching this on YouTube and you're enjoying this series, please like this and also hit that subscribe button in the bottom right-hand corner to follow our channel for every time a new video or live show is posted. And please hit me up on the socials in either private comments or in regular chat. Tell me what you like, what you don't like, what you'd like to see. And then also, please definitely know that we still do have our Summer with AI contribution form. If there's something you would like us to cover, a tool you would like us to cover, if you've made a tool that you would like us to showcase, please put that information into the form. And we would love to connect with you and share with you as we go. So we appreciate you. We appreciate everything that you do. And until we see you next week, have yourselves a wonderful, wonderful summer with AI. See you later, everybody.
In the summer heat, we're feeling the thrill. A brand new web series, yeah. It's time to chill. A summer with AI, it's gonna be a blast. Generative education, learning's happening fast. We're diving deep into the AI sea, exploring the tools that'll set us free. From coding to creativity, it's all a dream, it's all a dream. A summer with AI, join your winning team. AI, it's the name of the game. Learning and having fun, no two things the same. Generative education, the future's bright. A summer with AI, let's take flight tonight.